you know, we can't have deportations here because it would disrupt our food supply for the country. We really don't think that anybody wants that.
Tuesday, 35 farm workers were taken from the city of Oxnard. That number could have been much higher had it not been for an organized community response.
For many, the fear is real, but they still have bills to pay.
The other day, when things got a bit harder, some didn't come in. They didn't come in out of fear. But we can't stop coming in because you know yourself. People need the money to eat, to pay rent, and so they take a risk.
And he tells me this job isn't easy.
The people here are needed for the economy to boost. And reversing this, it's going to drop, because if they take away the people, who is going to come in to work for them?
Now, ICE is going to be targeting migrants who are here illegally working on farms and in restaurants and in hotels.
Homeland Security is saying that ICE is going to start enforcing in hotels and farms again. Is that a change of course from last week?
We're going to look everywhere, but I think the biggest problem is the inner cities. We're looking everywhere. There are far more in the inner cities, Democrat-run cities, sadly. And I'm just giving you a fact. There's far more in there than you have on a farm someplace.
So no one's getting exemptions anymore. Everyone is.
Well, everyone's being looked at.
That was the president this morning on Air Force One. Now, this is a complete shift in tone towards migrants who are here illegally working on farms and in the leisure and hospitality industry. Last Thursday, less than a week ago, I reported in this video that the president said this.
Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. You go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers. Common sense on that.
After that statement, Homeland Security sent guidance to immigration agents fanned out across the country, directing them to hold off on worksite enforcement investigations and operations on farms and in restaurants and at hotels. But yesterday, immigration enforcement reportedly got a new directive. Homeland Security changed the guidance again and now says ICE has the green light to go back into work sites on farms, into hotels and restaurants to target any migrant who is here illegally. And that change was confirmed when the president today said, we're going to look everywhere. He did not take that same strong stance he did last week. There is definitely a difference now. Now, according to his comments today on Air Force One and in a lengthy post he put on his social media page, while the president may be changing his mind about immigration enforcement on farms.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing super great from wherever you're watching us from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Stories. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing super fine from wherever you're watching me from. Now, there is this video that I wanted to share with my community, the black people. So this is what happens. We saw a lot of white people celebrate when the predicament of black farmers was happening, when black farmers were not getting any funding. But this was their celebration because, at least to them, competition was reduced. And really this made farming, especially in black communities, to go down. But who celebrated this? It is the white farmers. Well, we're trying to look at history, how disadvantaged the black farmers were as compared to the white farmers. Really makes me go back to history. And I like always digging what happened in the past, because as the saying goes, you cannot know what's coming if you don't know where you're coming from. In short, you will not know where you're going without knowing where you come from. So all these dynamic shifts that are happening to white people, we need to go back and reflect. How did they come to be? And why were they celebrating when things were going right to them while it was not going right to black farmers? So as you know, I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Stories. Well, I'm going to go through this and we are going to learn and see. Now, the current wave of bankruptcies among white farmers in Nebraska and across the American Midwest is not an isolated academic accident. It is the result of long historical arc of choices rooted in racial capitalism, land exploitation, and white supremacy. The farmers now find themselves crushed under the weight of corporate monopolies, international trade instability, and environmental crisis. But we need to understand this deep irony of their suffering. First, we must go and revisit things that happened historically. As I said, you can never know where you're going if you don't know where you come from. Now, this is this. White supremacy system benefited in the short term while sowing the seeds of long-term collapse. This is the cost of siding with whiteness rather than justice. Even when the very system protected is now turning on them, the very system that protected them is turning now on them. The people that helped you build what you have right now are now the people making you regret even having the thought of being a farmer to begin with, because there's now nothing you can do because you decided to specify in the line of farming. Brothers and sisters, let us watch this video. I'll be back and then I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. We're going to dig down in history and learn how did this all changed and what are the dynamics that white folks in Nebraska today are facing. So buckle up for this video. I'll be back. If you're watching us for the first time, consider subscribing to the channel, join our membership, and really see what we can offer you. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back.
How you going to run a country when you flip-flop harder than a fish on a dock? Last week, Trump said he was going to exempt hospitality and farm workers from ICE raids. You know, the people who literally keep the country fed and who keep our hotels running. He already reversed his decision, y'all. As of Monday, ICE agents were told to ignore that guidance and go back to doing those raids on those locations. So again, he is backtracking like he always does. Says one thing to sound reasonable, then pulls it back when he hears the loudest person yelling in his base. And I'm sitting here wondering, like, how are businesses supposed to function like this? How do you run a restaurant, a hotel, or a farm when week to week you don't know if you're going to have workers? That's next to impossible. The funniest part is the people who voted for this, they thought really this would make America great again. I'm trying to figure out what's great about chaos. What's great about fear and instability? What's so great about punishing the workers that are doing the jobs that most Americans don't want to do anyway? Trump ain't delivering greatness. He's delivering confusion. And at this point, he's not making it great. He's just making it harder to function.
If you guys haven't been following along, President Cheeto decided to go on this whole rant online where he was like, you know what? I've heard from a lot of people that they're losing out on a lot of good, hardworking people because of the immigration raids. And he went on this whole rant on how he was going to look into it and he was going to pause all of the immigration things that are happening in fields and hotels and stuff like that, right? And for a second there, we're like, wait, did he just say something rational? Did he just say something that makes sense, you know? But we all kind of just ate our words immediately because right after he was like, we're going to put a pause to this, we're going to do this, apparently he reversed that guidance that he gave people to chill out on the farmers and the hotels and then all this. And he decided that he was going to send ICE over there to do exactly what he said that he thought was a bad idea. Like, what? I mean, just look at this. This is something quoted from the Washington Post. It says the Trump administration reportedly reversing a recently formulated plan to refrain from conducting immigration raids against undocumented migrants in the agricultural, hotel, and restaurant industries, right? Obviously, because he has a bunch of hotels. So I was like, okay, you know, it is what it is. You know, he has a hotel. He's doing this for self-gain, but at least, you know, this actually makes sense. But now the Department of Homeland Security announced the return to raids on such workers on Monday morning call with representatives from 30 immigration and customs enforcement field offices. Lord, I can't keep doing this. Now, I don't even know what's going on with the world right now. It feels like it's flipped upside down. I don't know what's happening. There's been so many reports that there have been ICE agents all over farms and agricultural areas and hotels and restaurants and all these places. And I'm just like, what? is happening? What's it gonna take for the world to snap out of this? Like, come on. The administration makes absolutely no sense. One day they say one thing, the next day they say another. I'm not sure if they were just like, okay, maybe they'll let their guards down and this is how they're getting creative and getting the people that were undocumented. I have no idea, but it is terrible, and that's just my opinion, of course. I'm very curious to know what you guys think about this.
I don't understand, MAGA. Why aren't you guys in these fields in Florida? It's super weird. You guys need to get in these fields. This is your dream, not ours, MAGA. Get in these fields and pick the food. I'm so confused where you all are at. You guys are, and believe me, I've done the research. You're all not college educated. This is where you guys should be at. You said a job is a job. That's what you guys said. You said that immigrants were taking our jobs. So you guys need to get in these fields and pick the damn fruit and vegetables. You wanted this. Where are you at? I don't understand why you guys aren't picking all the fruit in the fields. Get in there and get our food.
A day after we learned Donald Trump instructed ICE to pause immigration enforcement at farms, restaurants, and hotels, the White House reversed itself, pushing ahead with raids at farms, hotels, and restaurants. What in the world happened?
Katie, let's try to unpack this as best we can. All I know is the memo that we've seen where they lay out that ICE was not supposed to go do arrest at, like you said, farms, restaurants, hotels, anything having to do with agriculture. That included fisheries and meatpacking plants, mainly because, as Trump posted on Truth Social, he was hearing from employers and business owners in that space that the arrests were having a negative effect on business. And so he was telling ICE to pull back. But in that memo, there's actually a very telling line where they say, we recognize that eliminating these places from areas you're allowed to go arrest is going to have a bad effect on getting the numbers that you need to get. Those numbers, of course, were set by Stephen Miller in mid-May, telling ICE they need to arrest 3,000 people per day, or else some of the leaders could be facing firings if they don't meet that quota. Now, they're arresting right now over 2,000 a day. They're not near 3,000, but still a record high in terms of daily arrests we're often seeing. And so when they pulled back on arresting in those places, it became a lot harder to get the numbers, in large part because workplace raids, that is a tool that ICE has used to boost arrest numbers, because they can go into one place and arrest over 100 people in some cases. Now, sometimes they can arrest people who turn out to be very legally in this country, but at least the arrest numbers, which was the goal Stephen Miller set out, not deportation numbers, that is something that they could boost through those raids. So now they've walked that back, not through a memo, but we're told through a verbal communication to ICE saying, you know what, forget what we said, go anywhere you'd like.
Did you see that Donald Trump reversed his position that he's not going to go after farm or hotel workers? But really, is it a reversal if it never went into effect in the first place? If you didn't see last Thursday, Donald Trump, Truth, whatever it's called, that he was going to ease up on immigration raids at hotels and farms, saying that these are good, hardworking people with skills that cannot be replaced. And that post only happened because the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, was getting so many calls from farmers saying that these raids are hurting them. And this move by Brooks pissed off Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller. According to White House staffers, they were both very angry that the Secretary of Agriculture went around them when they're supposed to be, in charge of immigration. And this also goes to show that Trump doesn't check with his staff before making official statements. And to add to all the chaos, on Thursday, DHS sent out an email telling its agents to hold down all worksite enforcement, including restaurants and operating hotels. Even though Trump made those statements and they sent out that email, there were still reports of raids happening at work sites. And then to add more to the confusion, while saying we're not going to go after farm workers or hotel workers, Trump says that they're going to start being more aggressive towards Democratic-run cities. Now we've come full circle and agents are being told to resume raids at farms and hotels, as if those raids ever really stopped. And this is why I've said to take everything this man says with a grain of salt. I saw how many people saw this post as a win, thinking that he was actually going to ease up on the immigrant community. But I need people to remember that at the end of the day, Donald Trump and this administration does not care about immigrants. They do not care about people of color. This man does not care about us. He cares about keeping his rich buddy or his racist buddies happy. Those are the two options he's going with. Our communities do need to be valued. We need to be respected. We need laws that are going to protect us. But we are not going to get those things under Donald Trump.
And just like that, the Department of Homeland Security has reversed course again and is now conducting raids again against farms, restaurants, hotels, even construction sites. A complete reversal from Thursday when Trump said no more raids on these organizations and businesses. According to the Washington Post, ICE officials are under extreme pressure to ratchet up their arrests of undocumented immigrants to at least 3,000 a day. The most they've ever gotten in one day so far since Trump has been president is 2,000. I have no idea, once they make all these arrests, where the judges are to prosecute their deportations, where the trial attorneys are to prosecute their deportations, and where the jail space is to hold them, because immigration jail space is full, and deportation hearings are being pushed back 3-4 years. So these random arrests are gumming up the system, destroying businesses, destroying people's lives, scaring the hell out of everybody, ruining the U.S. economy, just to complete.
I really want to offer my deepest sympathies to the red state farmers of America who woke up to the devastating news that America's stepchild, Vivek Ramaswamy, is going to cut their farm subsidies. Yes, you did hear that right. You know, the many billions of dollars that you and I pay to these farmers to subsidize them growing our food is now suddenly going to get cut. Apparently, it's wasteful spending. But this is what they voted for. So I just want to say, I'm really offering you my deepest thoughts and my deepest sympathies as you painfully experience what you voted for. I hope it was worth it.
Major breaking news. The Trump administration just announced they are resuming raids at hotels, restaurants, and farms. Just a few days ago, the Trump administration promised they're going to protect farms, restaurants, and hotels. But today, they issued an order to ICE agents to start those raids immediately. They said there's no safe place for industries that protect undocumented immigrants. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller has clearly set a target of 3,000 arrests per day. If you're an employer watching this, you need to start getting ready. Prepare your companies for an ICE raid, for an ICE audit. Get all the documents in place. Educate your employees what to do in case of a raid. And if you need help, please contact me right here, the number here. We're getting ready to help many employers protect their restaurants, protect their farms. We're going to push back on this thing. Stay safe, guys, out there, and follow me for daily updates.
Okay. I want to show you all this full clip of AJ Richards, a MAGA voter and a farmer who explains in a 2 or 3 minute video why Trump is losing the support of him and farmers across the country with multiple key actions that Trump and his admin have taken. Now, you know, earlier I made a video about a comedian who also is regretting his vote for Donald Trump, and he said as much. He said he apologizes for even voting for Trump now that Trump is getting the U.S. involved in the Israel-Iran war, very likely. So you see this increased pattern of Trump supporters regretting their votes because Trump conned them, or Trump promised something, and now him and his advisors are executing on something completely differently. Before I even play this video, let me remind you, Trump's entire admin is now chickening out on the immigration raids. And I don't say that as someone who wants them to happen even further. I mean, Trump has spent his entire political career promising this aggressive deportation stance, and now he is completely backing down. And large portions of MAGA are mad at this as well. Inside Trump's extraordinary turnaround on immigration raids, President Trump's decision to pause most raids targeting farms and hospitality workers took many inside the White House by surprise. And of course, I support the pause. You guys know that. But the point here is Trump can't keep a consistent policy to save his life. And he always ends up alienating a large portion of his base because of the way that he operates. What about this one? Wisconsin dairy farmer sues Trump administration, claiming discrimination against white farmers. Talk about being eaten by your own. A Wisconsin dairy farmer alleged in a federal lawsuit filed today, Monday, June 16th, that the Trump admin is illegally denying financial assistance to white farmers by continuing programs that favor minorities. So this is a case of the Trump admin trying to claim they're eradicating DEI, but still keeping in some equitable policies for farmers, and then farmers getting angry. The conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty filed the lawsuit, but I don't even find that as important as a Trump admin backing down. Listen to this. On Wednesday morning, President Trump took a call from Brooke Rollins, his Secretary of Agriculture, who relayed a growing sense of alarm from the heartland. Farmers and agriculture groups, she said, were increasingly uneasy about his immigration crackdown. Federal agents had begun to aggressively target work sites in recent weeks with the goal of sharply bolstering the number of arrests. Now let's watch this video of AJ Richards. Make sure that you drop a like. And I keep getting comments like, Adam, I've been watching since 200K and I just realized that I wasn't subscribed. Fixing that now. So join the crew. We are building a powerhouse of a channel with you all. I appreciate it all. Let's watch this clip of a farmer explaining exactly how Trump lost his.
I tell you what, I think the only people that have fucked around and found out harder than federal employees that voted for Trump is farmers that voted for Trump. This farmer voted for Trump. Now his family farm is barely getting by. The Thomases took a 10% hit when the Trump administration abruptly cut $1 billion from two programs that supplied local produce and meat to schools and food banks across the country. Two things Republicans hate: schools and food banks. Said the financial insecurity makes my depression worse, Jacob said recently. He was trying to remain optimistic, reminding himself it was still earlier in the year. Just because one program went away, there's still plenty of time to pivot. Though the Thomases and many of their neighbors voted for Donald Trump last November, the consequences of this administration's wide-ranging cuts and uncertainty over tariffs have already had a profound impact on this hilly corner of northeast Kansas, one of the hardest hit states for agriculture during Trump's last trade war. It says for many, the pride that they felt when President Trump spoke of his love for farmers in his March 6th address to Congress has given way to a growing sense of helplessness, frustration, and anger. How did you not learn from his first term? It's like people have no memory. Their hate and fear of having a black woman for president could cause them to lose their family farm. And I bet they'd vote for him again if they...
I just went down the rabbit hole of watching a couple dozen videos of farmers that are on the brink of bankruptcy thanks to Donald Trump pulling the rug out from underneath them by not honoring promises made by the Biden administration, because God knows he can't honor some other president's decision. So that's where we're at. Most of these farmers that I'm seeing, it's like the level of regret for their vote is pretty extraordinary. I mean, they're basically saying they're off the Trump train. All right, good. I'm glad you learned your lesson. I'm sorry it's too late. But then there's also this like small contingency of farmers, it seems, that are almost giving him the benefit of the doubt, like it was some kind of an oopsie and that he's going to fix it. I mean, I don't know. At this point, it's not just about farmers. I think everybody's got to take a really good look at this and realize what's happening. This is on purpose. This is your government trying to hurt you. This is your government saying, I'm going to put you in a situation where you will very likely have to start selling off your equipment and potentially your farm. And if you're doing that, you know, guess who's going to scoop them up? It's not a question. It's these corporations that are headed up by his largest political donors. It's not that hard to follow the breadcrumbs here. So why do you think he's doing it? He's doing it because it's a favor to his political donors who want to buy your farm for pennies on the dollar. That's why it's happening. So just know that your government is actively trying to put you into dire straits so that you'll give up everything you have so that they can buy it cheap. So if you've got a 5th generation organic soybean farm, they want it. I'm quite sure Monsanto will buy it and pump the ground full of Roundup and no problem. And it's not just farmers. That's just who we're talking about today. It's going to be everybody. He has no problem cutting veteran benefits. He has no problem cutting health benefits, Medicaid, Medicare. They're going to go after Social Security. If there was ever a more clear indication that this government doesn't value you, me, and citizens as people, find me a more clear example. And don't tell me about Hunter Biden's laptop or Hillary's emails. It's amazing how many times you can bring up these incredibly egregious things that this administration is doing, and the Trumpers still come back with like, well, at least he's not part of the Biden crime family. I'm like, okay. How was your farm under the Biden crime family? How's our economy? How are our institutions? Who does it help by eliminating the Department of Education? I still do not understand anyone who continues to back him. Granted, every day it's fewer and fewer people, but they're still there, more resolved than ever. And I think at some point people need to pay attention.
American farmers are pissed about Trump's new plans. So when Trump promised to turn on the faucet for farmers facing drought in California, they were happy to vote for him. But it is his new plans for mass deportations causing a little bit of buyer's remorse, I think. Turns out, undocumented immigrants make up more than half of California's farm workers. Literally, who could have seen this coming? So farmers are worried. What is the point of growing crops if nobody can work the fields and harvest? And it's not like we can just find citizens for this work. Unemployment is the lowest it has ever been in this country. So if you thought eggs were expensive before, wait until you're paying furloughed tech bros to do the harvest. Now, Trump's new border czar promised to begin deportations on day 1. The president of Western Growers Association called it very troubling. That's putting it mild, huh?
We just want to work, sell our crop, and have a decent life like everybody else. But if they would just leave it alone.
This trade war is going to impact literally every corner of the country. Some of those who are most uncertain about what this is going to mean is those in agriculture and farming. Like here, corn and soybean farmers and pork producers. Where does this trade war end?
I don't know where it ends. I hope it ends soon.
What is your message to the Trump administration?
Just stay out of it. I mean, if they would just leave it alone and let the free market do its job, everything would be okay.
This is going to be so far reaching, not just because of the Trump administration's tariffs of goods imported into the United States, but it's about the question marks in the days ahead about the retaliatory tariffs that the likes of China, Canada, potentially Mexico, and Europe are going to place on U.S. goods that are either produced, like corn and soybeans, or manufactured and sent over.
U.S. farmers are regretting their vote for Donald Trump after their business suffers. Womp womp. Since China implemented their tariffs, farmers are suffering because soybean farmers, especially in the Midwest, are not being able to export as much as they're used to. I wonder why. Yet they voted for him anyway. They voted for him about 2 or 3 times, actually. I don't know how you thought voting for him would help you in your business when creating tariffs will probably hurt you. And he's said he's going to do this multiple times, but you know. Another example of Americans thinking that other parts of the world need them the most. Brazil is the #1 soybean import for China. They don't need the U.S. Brazil is steadily increasing the production year after year after year, while the U.S. has remained stagnant. And y'all thought Donald Trump getting in office will help y'all? You put somebody in office who directly hinders your business. I need these people to take a survey so I can understand why they make the decisions that they do. But again, womp womp. You put somebody in office because of reasons, and now you're paying the price because of those same reasons. You just thought they wouldn't affect you.
Not long after the Trump administration paused raids on hotel, farm, and restaurant workers, federal officials switching course now. Agents targeting these workplaces for immigration sweeps following new orders from DHS. Now, at the same time, ICE is launching a massive expansion of detention space, adding more than 10,000 new beds nationwide to hold migrants as President Trump pushes for what he's calling the largest deportation drive in history.
Farm workers asking Trump to spare their staff and their farm workers from these mass deportations. Nearly 2 million of the farm workers don't have status, and they're afraid that there's going to affect the food supply chain. I mean, I'm afraid about that too.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Duke Stories. Let's have a discussion in regards to this. It's really important. But then, let's get into history and get to see how all this unraveled. During the post-Civil War Reconstruction era, America had a brief window where true multiracial democracy could have been achieved. Black freedmen were poised to integrate politically and economically into American society, and in some cases, they did. But the backlash came swiftly. White farmers, particularly poor and working-class whites, were given a choice: ally with black people who shared the economic struggle, or side with white planter class and preserve racial hierarchy. And get to understand this story also explains how class was created, how whiteness was created. Because we had poor white folks and black people who worked in these farms. But then the elites came and saw to it, what can we do? Let's divide these people so that we can create an illusion to the minds of white folks that they are having a higher social strata as compared to black people. And they did. Later on, they came to learn that they were being played. I'm talking about the Bacons Rebellion. If you haven't watched the Bacons Rebellion, kindly go. The elites feared the unity that could come between poor white farmers and black farmers, right? So they created a drift. They created all these boundaries to create what is called class. That's how they came to create class. That's how they came to create race. After creating this illusion that white people were greater than black people, it now became, and all these made white farmers started having a lot of benefits that they didn't give to black farmers. Right now, when it meant their own exploitation would continue, the creation of white identity in America was not just cultural, it was transactional. It provided social privilege in exchange for political and economical obedience to the ruling class. That's what the elite wanted. The corporates that we are seeing right now on your back are trying to get you out of what you're doing. They're the ones that you bowed down to and decided to follow their ways. And now later on when things turned, it turned that the same very problem that black people are facing is the same problem that you're right now going through because you decided to go with whiteness. When black sharecroppers and tenant farmers organized for fair wages, access to land, and legal rights, they were often met with violence, not just the elite landowners, but from neighboring white farmers. In the 1890s, alliances like the populist movement, which momentarily sought solidarity between poor and white farmers, were violently crushed by white supremacist propaganda. Remember when this group of people would come and chase black people out of farms, remove them out of their farms, and they took the land that belongs to black people, right? They decided to come as a group, burn down the houses that black farmers were staying, and chase them away. Black farmers had to start from nothing when their lands were taken from them, right? So white farmers were convinced that siding with elites in racial unity was better than class solidarity with black Americans. This betrayal of potential black-white unity preserved what is called today white supremacy, but it also preserved the plantation economy, which was later corporatized into the very agribusiness model that is now bankrupting them. The one that you fed is the one that is taking you down today. Let's go. Fast forward to the 20th century and the rise of federal agricultural subsidies under the New Deal. These subsidies were largely denied to black farmers, while white farmers reaped the benefits, building generational wealth. Talk about institutions like USDA, which openly discriminated against black farmers, denying them loans, technical support, and access to land ownership. By the late 20th century, black farming had been decimated 98%. 98% of black farmers were pushed off the lands. This is what I was trying to tell you before. Their land that belonged to black farmers were taken, some violently. Right? White farmers looked the other way, benefiting from the purge. Now, those same subsidies and programs have been opted by massive agribusiness and multinational corporations that have no loyalty to rural America. The very system white farmers helped build exclude black people is now excluding them. Now, what can we call that? Just think about it. It's really crazy that this all is getting back to them. And they're the ones who started this all. They're the ones who came with this. Let's talk about globalization. Globalization and corporate monopolization of agriculture further accelerated the decline. Farmers in Nebraska once relied on local markets and community-based economies. Right? But trade deals like NAFTA, driven by the very politicians these community often supported, made small-scale farming unprofitable. While black communities fought against these corporate policies, many white farmers either ignored these warnings or voted in favor of the policies, viewing them through the lens of patriotism, nationalism, or party loyalty. Again, short-term whiteness was chosen over long-term justice. Then comes the Trump era, a presidency white rule America overwhelmingly supported. Trump's trade wars, especially with China, devastated American agriculture. Tariffs imposed by China in retaliation for the U.S. Actions led massive losses for soybean and corn producers, especially in the Midwest. Trump offered bailouts, funds, but those funds largely went to large businesses, not family farms. Many white farmers felt betrayed. But this was the political consequence of a system they endorsed, a system that has always served the rich while using racial division to maintain power. You could clearly see that. Also, there is also a cultural betrayal. Many white farmers clung to the myth of American dream. Work hard, own land, feed the country, and be free. But this dream was always built on exclusion or theft of native land, the labor of enslaved Africans, and the marginalization of Mexican and black laborers. Now that global finance and mechanized agribusiness donate, that dream is collapsing. And without the racial hierarchy to prop them up, many white farmers are confronting their powerless for the first time. It is a rude awakening. It is a rude awakening. These farmers are not just suffering financially, they are suffering from erosion of their identity. Their privilege of whiteness that once gave them social status and confidence are fading in the system that now see them as disposable. In some cases, the children are fleeing rural life, communities are vanishing, and opioid addiction is rampant. This is not just economic decline, it is existential crisis. And yet, even now, some cling to racial resentment instead of embracing solidarity with marginalized communities who've long warned of these systemic failures. Think about it this way. If there is a lesson in this, white supremacy is a poison that eventually turns its own creators. The betrayal that white Nebraska farmers feel today is not just from Washington or Wall Street, it is from history itself. The betrayal of a chance to build a more just shared society generations ago And now they are experiencing the consequences of the same system built on exclusion. They are reaping what they helped sow. The opportunity still exists for healing and solidarity, but it will take a reckoning. A reckoning with how whiteness was weaponized, how economic systems were racialized, and how moral decisions were sacrificed. For privilege, only when these truths are confronted, and then suffering of Nebraska farmers and the suffering of millions be channeled into building a truly inclusive and just economic future. But the clock is ticking, and history has a brutal way of correcting itself. Thank you guys for watching the video. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Eugene Duke Stories, but until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.